When we vibrate the string, we modulate the pitch, and we got to make a decision. We need to say, how do we want this vibrato to affect our pitch? Do we want to have our note that we're trying to play in the middle and vibrate around the note, up, down, up, down? Do we want to have our note at the top and vibrate up into the maximum of our frequency? Or do we want to have it at the minimum of our frequency? So just like any time we talk about intonation, we have the cultural side of it and the intonation side of it. And if you haven't watched my video series on intonation, you should probably watch that first before we start getting into the nuance of vibrato and how it affects our intonation. So I'm going to make the argument that we should vibrate up into the pitch, and I have two reasons why. I have a physical reason why we should use that sort of vibrato, and I have a technical reason for why we should use that certain vibrato. My physical reason and technical reasons tend to override the cultural reasons for doing so, but if I play in an orchestra that has a different culture of vibrato, it's up to me to change my vibrato to match the orchestra, which takes listening and adjusting. But when I'm teaching a classroom full of my own students, it's fairly easy for me to get them to all use the same type of vibrato, and sometimes I'll have a student move in or something and they'll make that adjustment relatively quickly. So the first part of my argument is the physical part of the argument, which is we need some sort of end point for our ears to lock into when we're trying to figure out what the note is supposed to be. And sometimes we play with wider vibrato or narrower vibrato, but if we hide the note within the range of vibration, it's hard for our ears to hear where we're actually supposed to be. And it's also harder as a section to match each other's vibrato, because now we're having to, all of a sudden we mask where our pitch is, and then we're having to match, and are we going this far or that far? I can't find it, and so it can make your section sound out of tune unless everybody is completely engaged with vibrato. So it kind of reminds me of Ben Kenobi from the first Star Wars movie when he plays this Jedi mind trick and he says, "These are not the droids you're looking for."
These aren't the droids you're looking for.
Or well, when we're vibrating around the note, it's like, this is not the pitch you're looking for. We can never really find the pitch. So then we're left with the extremes. Like, is it this endpoint or is it this endpoint? Which one is the note that we're trying to communicate? As musicians, we also tend to tune from low to high instead of from high to low. Most people can hear things flat much better than they hear things sharp. So it would make better sense from a physical point of view, and from the ear's point of view, what the ear is more comfortable with acoustically is to go up to the maximal pitch and then back down so that we can hear the rate of change going up to pitch. The other reason that I recommend going up to the maximum is because our technique tends to work favorably in that position. We tend to not overextend. We tend to not overextend the wrist, especially in your upper strings, and we tend to not hyperflex as much because we're going up to the high point and coming back down, up to the high point and coming back down instead of going past the high point. Ultimately, you have to choose what's right for you and your orchestra, whether it's the high point, the low point, or somewhere in between. But that's my case for why it should be the high point in your vibrato. And if what you're doing is working great, keep doing that. If you want to try something new, maybe try it in a slightly different way to where your students are vibrating up to the pitch and coming back down, and up to the pitch and coming back down, and see if that might solve any problems that you're having in your orchestra.